Baba lovers, few close Baba people from Nagar to be present during that program. And Adi Jr. was in England for quite a few years, so he also enjoyed the program thoroughly in Baba's presence. Any Qawwali program, a good Qawwal could give a very heart-satisfying performance. But before Baba, it would be something very special. So we all enjoyed it, and Baba was in great mood.
So this happened then? In 1968?
That's right.
In this very hall?
In this very hall.
Siddiq
Qawwal. Siddiq Qawwal. Or they used to call him Jaipuri Qawwal. He was from Jaipur. And Baba liked his rendering and the verses that he chose. So Baba was very happy with his singing. And he sang all morning and everybody was happy. I was sitting at the back, Baba beckoned to me, come here and start pressing my feet during the program, because it was hurting him to sit for a long time. So I remember that also. Yeah. And it was a nice program. Then what other things happened at that time was, before I came, then a little untoward incident occurred. Baba would work with Kekobad. Kekobad would be in the room adjoining this hall. So, for some part of the day, Baba would be with Kekobad and work with him behind closed doors. Baba would do some work with him. And this would be going on. And one day he slipped in the bathroom or somewhere and fell heavily. And he fractured his hip joint or something. And Baba was very upset because this would come in the way of his work. And so H and all the Mandli rushed about and tried to get Kekobad fixed up quickly so that he would be again somewhat fit enough to assist Baba in his seclusion work. So that was an unfortunate thing that happened. And when I came, Kekobad was still not able to walk, and he would be in the wheelchair and all that. So to attend upon him, Dr. Alu was called to stay at Meherazad. So she was lucky to come and stay with Baba. So she would be kept in that room there, the small room at the end of the veranda of that cottage. And she would be available for attending on Kekobad.
Did Kekobad ever say that you know of what Baba would do during that work with him?
Well,
his awareness?
I think Baba would be bowing down to him and he would be repeating the name of our Mazda or something. Sometimes we could hear him repeat this. But we don't know exactly, and we never asked him what would happen. And he was given the duty of repeating Baba's name all day long, and he would repeat Baba's name several thousand times. So that was his duty. And
so he was a character who wasn't much a part of social life.
Whatever social life you may call it. Mostly he kept to his room. No, he would be here when Baba would be here, but otherwise not mixing much, and would be busy all day with whatever work Baba was giving him to do. So One evening we were all sitting outside. As you know, at that time there was no veranda as you see just now. It was all open to the sky. And in the evenings we would just sit out on benches and have a little chat before we all retired. Baba would be in his room there. So one evening we were just chatting along and suddenly Pendu came over and says to me, Baba wants you, come quick. So I went running to Baba's room there, and it was all quite dark inside. At that time there was no electricity at Meherazad, so there would be a lantern kept outside Baba's bedroom window, and the light from the lantern would be all that would be the light, a source of light in Baba's room. So I could see Baba was sitting on the edge of the bed and he was munching something. Because Baba would feel hungry in the night and he would ask for some little snack or something, or call for some food from Najamai. Sometimes he would tell Najamai, now don't keep any food for me. He would tell her very emphatically. And Najamai would say, yes Baba, I won't keep it. And she would keep it, knowing Baba. And then Baba would call for her and say, is there anything left? Have you left anything for me? And she would say, yes Baba, I just thought of leaving something. But I told you not to leave and still you have left. So he would also scold her all and then say, come on, bring it, whatever it is. Yeah. It would be very nice to hear all this. So, so Baba was munching something and then he asks me to come close and he gives me a piece of what we call bhakra in Gujarati. It's a sort of cookie that the Parsis prepare out of wheat dough and butter and all that. A sweet cookie, Baba was very fond of that. So, and my mother had prepared it and sent it with me to Baba. So he says, eat this. So I eat it. And he says, what is this your mother has prepared? So hard, can I chew this? So I said, Baba, but the doctor's instructions are that we should not use much fat and butter, and to make it soft, more butter is required, so Mama couldn't do that. So, all right, he said. Well, first he says, look, taste this, and he gave another one which Rhoda Mystery had sent. It was extremely soft and nice. She didn't care for any doctor's instructions. He says, see the difference, can you feel it? He said, yes Baba, but what can be done now? He says, all right, forget about it. Then he says, what were you doing just now when I called for you? I said, Baba, we're just having a little chat there only. Who all were there? So I mentioned names. So I said, Iraj was there, Pendu, Kaka, then Najamai was there, and Dr. Alu. They were there. Baba seemed unhappy about it. He sends me back. Then a little later Pendu comes and tells Najamai sternly that you must go back to the women's quarters. Baba doesn't approve of this. And poor Alu, hearing of this, flees to her room and Pendu goes and pounds on her door and says, you hear that? Baba doesn't want you people there chatting away. Stay in your room. Yes, so that's how Baba was so very strict, even with the Mandli at that time. Another incident was about Sam. I think I mentioned to you earlier. He was a very quaint character. His actual name was Naushir Kodabanda. But he tells Baba one day that I don't like this name of mine. So Baba, you give me another name. So Baba says, what's wrong with it? He says, no, it rankles in my mind and I don't like it. Baba says, all right, we'll call you Sam from today. So he liked the thing and he says, yes Baba, that's nice. And he was such a peculiar fellow. He would constantly jabber something or the other, incessantly talking, and very peculiar sort of chap. So Baba would be so tired of his jabbering that Baba said to him one day, whenever I am in the hall, you have to observe silence. So from that time on, he couldn't talk before Baba. And that was a great relief to Baba. And he would do such funny things, and that would irritate all of the Manli, and especially Francis. He couldn't stand that fellow any longer. So one day there was a big fight between them, and there was some physical stuff that happened, and then it came to Baba's notice, and Baba was not very happy about it. And Francis then asked forgiveness of Baba. Baba said, no, you shouldn't lose your temper like that. Learn to restrain yourself. Yeah, because Francis would be annoyed by the way Sam would disturb Baba, So that would rankle in his mind. And he couldn't tolerate him anymore.
Was Sam here for a period of time?
Yeah, I think almost a year or probably more or less. I'm not sure, but for quite a long time he was here. Quaint sort of person, but somehow
or another,
he had his account with Baba to settle, And
is he close to one of the other Mandalay? Is that
No, I don't think so.
Just somehow or another, Baba?
Yeah. His family was there. He was not married, but his elder brother, he was quite different. A thorough gentleman, was married, had children, and a very nice-natured person. And they were all devoted to Baba. Yeah. But this chap was a quaint fellow. Jimmy would speak very funny stories about him. Jimmy tells me that one day he used to be in Bombay, this Sam, and he would do stevedoring business in partnership with his brother. And there would be no end to the fights between the brothers. So, while in Bombay, Jimmy was one day repairing his car or doing something, bent down, lifting the bonnet. And suddenly this chap comes up to him, and Jimmy looks up and he says, "Why do you hate me?" So Jimmy was so surprised. He said, "I'd never seen the guy before." And all of a sudden he comes and asks me this question. And very loudly, so that passers-by could observe what's going on. And Jimmy was so embarrassed. He says, "But I don't know who you are." Then he introduced himself, and so I said, "How could I hate you, never having seen you before?" "No, from your demeanor I could see that you are hating me." Such a person, trying to pick up fights with anybody that he came across.
Oh, what a way to introduce yourself to someone else.
Yeah.
And so that was his first meeting?
Yeah, so you should hear Jimmy speak in the way he would, very funny. And he would tell Baba all this, and Baba would enjoy this. And so one day Sam describes to Baba in his silence, because he was not allowed to speak. So and besides, he had this craze for meditation. So although Baba was here, he would want to do meditation. So Baba says, "All right, you want to do meditation? Then when I come in the hall, then you go up to the Khandoba hill and do meditation there." So every morning before Baba would come here, he would go up the hill and be there for several hours and then come back. Baba would still be here, so he would come and sit, but then not allowed to speak.
This was during the time that Baba was with the Mandali, or
Yeah.
Baba was in his own seclusion work?
No, in seclusion work.
But I mean going up the hill during that time.
Yeah, he was up there doing the seclusion and all that. And then Baba would still be here, he would come back and he would be here with the Mandali. So one day he was describing how he would fight with his brother, and he made a big drama here. And it was a sight to watch him speak in silence, how he fought with his brother, how he gave him one box, and his brother was a hefty fellow and he caught hold of him and thrashed him. He's describing all the scene. So anywhere he would just would itch for a fight, That was his temperament. And one day he just suddenly disappeared from the ashram, bag and baggage, and we never saw him again.
You never took Baba's leave or anything like that?
I think he just went off here one fine morning and never came back. And later we heard that he was living in this little village near Pimpalgaon called Shendi, and he was there for quite a few years. And even after Baba passed away, he was there, and then eventually he left.
You didn't have contact with him?
No contact. So he was another character. Yeah, then another incident that occurred was on 31st January 1968. Baba wanted a meeting to be held. So a few people from Nagar were called, Nagar and Meherabad. And amongst them was, if I remember rightly, Adi and Sarosh, Vilu, then Khilnani family. Khilnani was a magistrate, I think, or a junior judge in Ahmednagar at the time. So he was here and transferred to Ahmednagar, and Baba had called him also, his family, wife and children. And then there was Padri, Jangle and Chagan and all from Meherabad and all these places. They also had come. There were quite a few of them here. Dhake was there, Dhake Falkar, the pleader. So Baba had given the time, I think, some 10 o'clock or something. And I remember we were all seated here. Baba had just finished his seclusion work, and we had come and then finished the prayers. And Baba was relaxing, with Ramu, the dog and all that. And suddenly we hear this horn, 10 minutes, I think, before the appointed time. Sarosh and Adi had come. Sarosh, usually being trained by Baba, was always before time, So he came and honked his horn. Baba was very upset. He says, "How is it they come early like that and disturb me?" So he sent somebody and sent word that they should back off to the cabin, beyond the cabin there, and wait there quietly and not disturb him. And so somebody went and told them to back off. And then the other cars also arrived, and so they all stood there. And then after some time Baba had them called, and then when they came in, then Baba started to severely berate Sarosh. He says, "What made you blow the horn?" He says, "Baba, this was just to announce our arrival, that we have come. But then why did you come early?" So he says, "Baba, that's your usual rule, that we have to be before time and not late. But don't you know I'm in seclusion, I require a little relaxation to come back into the the feel of the world, as it were, after working on those planes, and you disturbed me. I'm very upset. And Baba was visibly upset by me. Oh, Sarosh, and he said, all right, Baba, I ask your forgiveness, but I didn't know that it would disturb you. Baba said, all right. So that was his initial reception that he got for coming early. And then there was some meeting, I don't remember exactly what was said. The thing why I remember this meeting was, and there's no mention anywhere, that at the end of the meeting Baba said that now he would go inside, and Baba wants us to follow him to the women's side, and there he would call Mera, and for the first time in her life, Mera will be seeing you people, the men, and we will be seeing her. And that when she came and stood before Baba, that she would say Jai Baba to us, and in reply we all would have to say Jai Baba to her, folding our hands, and that is it. That he wants us to see Mera, and Mera to see us for the first time. So that was quite a surprise for all of us. And round about noontime, it was all over, and Baba went there. In his lift chair, he was taken there, and we all followed and stood below the porch. Then Mera came from inside and stood by Baba holding his hand, and then when we were all there, she folded her hands and said Jai Baba, and we also said Jai Baba. For the first time we saw her. Of course, I had seen her in my as a boy.
Was that the last time? I mean, you had not seen her since you were a boy?
Yeah.
Way back then?
Way back. Then never after that. Yeah.
Not even see her once?
Never. Yeah. So, that was, and for the Mandli it was the first time, many of them. So, that was it, and then Mera was sent inside. Then Baba asked some of the Mandli how did they find Mera, and they said she looked beautiful, very radiant. Some people said that, and Baba was very happy to hear that. So mind you, almost to the hour and the date, 1 year later Baba dropped his body. This was 31st January, sometime near noon time. And 31st January, the following year, Baba dropped his body. Yeah.
And that marked the beginning of Mera's emergence into public.
That's right, yeah. Baba was as it were preparing her to come out into the open. Her time for being in the strict seclusion was over, and it was now to be a different life for her. Yeah, because she had to, as it were, be in Baba's place, because Baba would no longer be there physically. So, sort of fill in a little of the vacuum that would be there. Yeah.
And she was very much the focus for all those years.
Yeah.
20 years.
That's right.
Did you have any impression of her after this? I mean, had you, over all those, what must be some 25 years since you had been living on the women's side, had you remembered her at all?
Yeah, I would remember that. Yeah. I had all those recollections. But of course, I would be not too much near, but I would be there when Baba would call everybody. She would be there with Baba. Yeah. I have those recollections as a boy.
Did you have any particular impression when you saw her again after so long?
Nothing particular. Just that Baba asked us to be there and to Jai Baba to her. That's what we did.
You know, in view of how the life has been ever since I've been coming here in 1972, it really is kind of incredible that many of the men Mandalay characters like Baijol, who at this point had been there from the early 20s, have been there all those years, have been, for heaven's sakes, in the new life of Baba, where Mira was, and had never seen her. It's almost like a miracle.
Yeah. No, because they were under instruction, and Mira was under instruction. So that was of prime importance to us. Whatever Baba wanted, it had to be done. So if Baba said that we should not see him, then we took great pains to turn away our face or whatever when we might be confronted with his sight. So obeying him was much more important than anything else. So that's why nobody could have ever seen her face. Nobody would have tried to do it. It was out of the question.
It seems like the separation of the men and the women around Baba is one of the basic facts of life throughout.
That's right. That's why we have this wall, right across. So this wall you see, that was the women's side. We never went there, and they never came here until much later. So that was the prime thing for Baba. So I think there's not much that happened in that stay after this. I think I've covered most of the points, and if I remember any other things later, then we would come back to it. But it was now time for me to depart from Mirazad, and so yes, Baba was to be in seclusion. So the circular had gone out that Baba would not be seeing anybody, that nobody should disturb him. And so I went back home and then was making ready for Baba's stay at Guru Prasad as usual. And Baba had given instructions even to me that I must not come to Guru Prasad for that stay. So also Mary and a few of us who were always allowed to visit Baba, Baba's brothers, his family, everybody was prohibited from entering Guru Prasad. So on the day of Baba's arrival, we went very early to Guru Prasad and made all preparations, the final, whatever had to be done, well before Baba would arrive at the place. And then all of us just went away before Baba could come, because we shouldn't even, Baba shouldn't, his sight shouldn't fall on us. That was the order, so we were very careful about it. And we returned, and then Baba of course came. And usually when Baba would be at Guru Prasad, Baba's food always used to go from the Indra house, and Baba would send Naja, Ranu over to help Manu prepare his food and all. But this year even that was stopped. So all food had to be prepared at Guru Prasad. And Naja, Mai and Ranu were kept at Guru Prasad only. So all the Mandli who accompanied Baba, they never stepped out of Guru Prasad, and we in Pune, none of us stepped into Guru Prasad.
Who was doing the marketing at that point?
The boys. There were a couple of boys who were sent, and they were allowed to go and get the marketing. Yes. And attend to mail, postings and all that. But the Mandli were not allowed to step out. So, this was going on. And when Baba came to Guru Prasad, he decided to do his seclusion work which he was doing here in the hall. He wanted to continue that work, and so it was decided that he would do it in his bedroom itself. So a big sofa chair was there in the Guru Prasad hall, was shifted into his bedroom and placed just by the side of his bedstead, and for Baba to sit and work on for his seclusion work, which he was doing here. So I remember it was having a nice yellow cover on it, and that was selected for Baba. It was a nice comfortable sofa chair. So Baba began his seclusion work, and of course, just as here they were asked to keep very silent during the seclusion time, so also similar restrictions were there to the Mandli, that none should disturb him when he was doing work. And after the seclusion work would be over, the Mandli would be called, and Baba would be then escorted from there to the Mandli's hall across the veranda. And then they would do the prayers in the Mandli hall and all that. That was the routine. But what happened was, when Baba got the chair placed and he started to work there, he let it be known that none should ever touch that chair. And Baba was so very particular that he repeatedly gave instructions that they should take great care that not even by the slightest accident they must touch that chair. It was very dangerous to do so, Baba had said. And even one's clothing should not brush against the chair. So Meru tells us once that she and Khorshid were given the job of cleaning Baba's room. No servants were allowed that they might touch the chair or something, so they were doing Baba's room. And one day she said she tripped over something and nearly fell on the chair. And somehow, with great effort, she prevented this catastrophe from happening. And but I think her trouser or something just brushed against the chair, and she said that she received a terrific shock, like an electric shock, when this happened. So she says, imagine if I had fallen on the chair, I would have been finished. Then immediately after that, I think Baba came and asked what happened, and she had to confess. She said, Baba, I'm sorry, but this happened like that. And Baba says, look, I'm warning you people that I won't be responsible for the consequences. So be careful not to touch this chair. So there must be some great high power work going on there. But it seems Mehra was given permission to attend to the chair. So she was the one. She could touch it. She was the only person around. So the seclusion work was so intense even there that Baba didn't want any noise or any disturbance. And Naja had the habit of getting excited, while cooking. So to prevent any mishap, Baba gave her silence throughout her stay at Guru Prasad. So her and Khorshid both, because Khorshid had to assist Naja in cooking. And what a fuss there would be every day in the kitchen. With having to observe silence, and these two characters never reacting favorably with each other. And Naja was short-tempered, She would ask, and she would have the same sign for onions, tomatoes, eggs, potatoes. Everything would be this. So poor Khorshid would always bring the wrong thing. And there would always be this silent quarrel going on. And Baba would have his humor everywhere. This typical Baba humor. One day, they were called in Baba's bedroom, Mani tells us, and Baba says, Naja, what have you cooked for me today? And she began to make signs, and Mani was to interpret them, and she could just make out SOS. So Mani was wondering, what emergency is this SOS? What is this SOS? Some emergency in the kitchen or what? And she couldn't figure out for a few moments. And then suddenly she realized it was sauce. Baba actually, I think, helped her to decipher it. And everybody laughed, and Baba also enjoyed the humor of the situation. She was getting all red because they couldn't understand what she was trying to convey. So in spite of the somber situation, these moments of humor and mirth were always there with Baba. So this seclusion work continued apace even in Guru Prasad. And
so in Winter House you were completely cut off this year from...
Totally, yeah. Except that I was allowed to phone Airaj from my office. If there was anything that had to be conveyed, some message or the other, so we could converse with each other on the phone. So that was the only means of communication. Otherwise, physically totally cut off.
Did occasion arise for that to happen, to call?
Yeah. We were allowed to converse with each other. So on some pretext or the other, I would call him. Yeah. So,
would he give news? Did you find out?
No.
No news was...
That was not.
That was in seclusion too.
Except if Baba made any announcement like he's finished his seclusion work or something. That apart from that, nothing else was to be given out. Yeah. So this was going on, and the first few days it was going on quite smoothly. And then towards the end of the month, one day we suddenly hear that Pukar had become very frantic and restless because Baba was continually postponing the seclusion. So one day he just got this whim, and with another 10 or 12 people, they all descended to Pune and assembled before Guru Prasad gate and wanted to enter. So of course the Mandli and the watchmen, they prevented them from coming in. So Pukar began to shout loudly on the road, made a scene. He says, I will die rather than go back. And I'm going to sit here and on a hunger strike, and I'll give up my body here. I'll not shift from here now. And they all squatted on the floor and said, this is it, now we'll just sit here. You forget us now. So Airaj phoned us and said, look, you people go there and convince them to clear out from here. If Baba comes to know, there will be some calamity that might take place. So we all rushed there, and then Pune center people came, Ramakrishna, myself and all. Then we persuaded this mountain of a man. He was very adamant. He says, I don't want to hear you people let me die here, what am I doing? I'm not going to go in. And we said, no, Pukar, this is not the way. And we cajoled him and consoled him and did all sorts of things that we could do. And with great difficulty and even a little pulling here and there, eventually he agreed to go from the place. I think we took them first to the Pune center. There Ramakrishna broke his head for many hours. And then he somehow persuaded them to go to Ahmednagar and see Adi. Yes, and talk to him about it. Baba's secretary. Somehow to get them out of this place.
Out of town.
Yeah, out of town. So little out of danger. And Pukar and his group went to Nagar and came to Adi's office, and poor Adi had to break his head with them. In the meantime, a message came from Guru Prasad. Baba came to know about this. So Baba sent word that tell them to go back forthwith to Hamirpur and not wander about aimlessly like this. Tell them from me. So Adi then said, look, this message has come now, what do you want to do? And that was it. Pukar, all his fervor just melted, after he received the stern warning from Baba, and he disappeared from the scene. So that was the only untoward incident that occurred at that time. Apart from that, nobody from Pune group ever dared to even approach Guru Prasad.
How had Eric found out about this whole going on? He was inside Guru Prasad.
Yeah, but there was a big racket outside. He was shouting and there was this big crowd of people, and then the passers-by gathering and seeing the scene. It was quite a big hubbub that was going on there. Yeah. So, and then eventually Baba came to know about it. So Pukar was a character like that, revolutionary blood in him,
Very hot-headed.
Yeah. Wow, just itching for some action or the other. Didn't like this prolonged seclusion business. It was against his nature, as it were. Yes, so the 21st May came and Baba declared that it was the end of his work in seclusion, which was given out in the circular. And Baba said that, told the Mandli that some residual work was there, and now it would be a short period of exclusion after the seclusion. Yeah. So some words he could invent very fast, and so he would be in this phase for another month or so, after which it would be over. And the work continued like this. So this was going on in Guru Prasad. And later on we knew that they would tell us that Baba's physical condition was really affected, because each time he would be out of seclusion and Baba would be totally fatigued and fagged out, as it were, completely bathed in sweat, and it was more and more strenuous for his whole body. Yes. And they could see that Baba was really suffering tremendously and taking upon himself tremendous burden. I think the Mandli even would tell him that, Baba, why wouldn't you do it a little less rigorously? Baba said that if he did that and if the work got prolonged, then the entire course of events would change. So he had to do what he had to do, irrespective of the consequences on his body. Yeah. So this work was going on in Guru Prasad.
Even hearing about this afterwards and having read about it, such information as there is, I've always acquired the sense of just a tremendous feeling of tension building and building and building throughout the seclusion.
Yes. It was quite a tense situation. Except for these moments of humor and mirth, but they were getting more and more rare, Yeah. So, that is how this Guru Prasad stay ended. There was no further event worth noting, and it was time for him to depart again. And so Adi and Dawn, Vaman and all these people had come a day or so earlier. Dawn had his new car, the Wolseley car, which he had got from England, from his father. It was a beautiful car he had. So Baba liked the seats very much. It didn't hurt his hip joint much, and it was very comfortable. So Baba would sit in Dawn's car with 4 women only, and the rest of them would be sitting in the DeSoto, which Adi would be driving. And Adi's Chevrolet car, Vaman would drive. So the whole entourage would go in these 3 vehicles. And of course Bhagirath's truck would be there to take away all the bag and baggage and pots and chairs and whatever they had brought from Meherazad for Baba's use and for their own. That would go in a truck separately. So on the day of departure, we were called at Guru Prasad with instructions that we had to stand on the side gate of Guru Prasad. There were 2 main entrances to the property, and one was the front driveway and the front gates, the main gates, and there was a side entrance, the side driveway from one side of Guru Prasad. So we were to stand outside that gate and hear all the vehicles moving out. Once they went out of the Guru Prasad and out of sight, then we were to enter Guru Prasad. That was the instruction left for us.
So you couldn't see?
No, we hadn't to even see in the direction of the bungalow while we were standing there, to look away on the other side. So Baba then left early morning, and after all had gone, then we went inside and did all the clearing up work and the removal of whatever we had brought for Baba's and the Manli's use there, and giving the charge to the manager, we would leave the place. So that was the stay at Guru Prasad. And then after that, of course, Baba returned to Meherazad, and in Meherazad also, Baba was, although he was now no longer in seclusion, but all the restrictions were still there, because Baba said that although his seclusion work was over, he required some time for recuperation, and also that he had to do some finishing touches to his work. So he was still doing some work of seclusion.
I remember at about this time he had given the figure of a man who's falling to earth and moves his body aside so as not to crush a few ants whom he happens to see as he's falling. And compared
That's right. It's a sort of simile that Baba was giving. So some finishing touches to his great work that he did in seclusion, he said that was remaining. So he was continuing to do that work.
In fact, I think he might have said, perhaps in May or during that time, that my work is completed to my 100% satisfaction.
Yeah. That's it. And that was told to us in the meeting also, later in October. Yeah. That his work was completed 100% to his satisfaction, and that the result would be 100% also. But that it will manifest sometime after September or something. He gave out that message. Yeah. So Baba was here and Baba's health began to get affected by this tremendous strain that he was undergoing, and his body began to develop jerks. So Gaver was feeling quite anxious about it.
This was a new thing, you said never.
Yeah, this had not been there. Sometimes he would get jerks in the old time also, but now this was becoming a very pronounced feature. So one day Gaver wanted some medicines, and she sent word to Adi to phone me at Pune and get these medicines for Baba urgently. So I was in the office and Adi phoned, and I rushed to the drugstore and was able to get those medicines what she wanted. And then I cycled hurriedly to the ST stand, and the bus was just leaving for Nagar. Yeah. So I stopped it and told the driver, please take this packet to Ahmednagar. He was not known to me. So he was so surprised to look at this. He says, what am I to do with this? I said, you just carry up to Nagar's ST stand and somebody will come to collect it from you. He looked quite surprised. I said, how will they know who am I? So I said, you give me your name, and I took down his name and the registration of the bus. He was so surprised, but he had to leave, so he just left with the parcel, And then I rushed back to the office and took an urgent call to Adi and told him that, look, I have given these medicines. You send a boy and see that he doesn't miss that bus. It's an ongoing bus to another station. So if he leaves Nagar, the parcel will be lost. So Adi sends the boy, and sure enough that driver was there, and the boy could get the parcel, and he rushed to Meherwan. So within about 4 or 5 hours of Gaver's request, the medicines reached them, and they were all very surprised. Yes, it was all Baba's grace that we could get these things done. People accepting these errands.
Yeah, what a crazy thing.
Yeah.
We must have been thinking, what fool is this?
Yeah.
To give me a parcel like this.
Unknown person. And that to a bus which was proceeding ahead from Nagar. Yeah, it was a risk, of course. So this was going on, and Baba was continuing with his restricted stay at Meherwan, and eventually we came to this time when on 13th of October we were called for this meeting, and that was the first time that I saw Baba again after seeing him at Meherwan earlier in the year. So, as I've given all the details of the meeting, and so it's no use repeating it again. And then, of course, after the meeting was over, then we all returned home, and preparations were set afoot, because there wasn't much time, because it would be a big affair. Baba had said that Easter's gathering and other meetings would be nothing compared to what would happen now, because there was great fervor all over the world for Baba's darshan, and eventually Meherji was in charge of all the receiving all the replies from the foreigners, and 9 charter flights had been booked at that time. This was before Baba dropped his body. So there was great fervor, and 9 had already been booked, and we didn't know how many more would come. So there was great consternation everywhere that how we would accommodate all these people and what would happen. Yeah. So all these things were going on, and then I remember it was almost November, and my uncle Meherji Mama was the eldest in our family. So he suddenly took ill and he had some urinary problems, and so he was admitted to hospital, and there the doctors wanted to do some surgical intervention because his urine had suddenly stopped flowing. So when they examined him, he was extremely anemic. So the doctor suggested that it started to flicker. No. Yeah, how long would it go on? So,
I don't know actually. I would guess another 2 minutes.
So should we stop here?
Okay, why don't we turn this on?